Hey y'all, welcome back to Lit Whiskey Wednesday, where the lit stands for literature. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to ask you to please bear with me. And the thing is, I'm not even talking about whiskey today. I know. You may be telling yourselves, this is Lit Whiskey Wednesday. How could we not talk about whiskey? And dear listeners, I hear you, but please bear with me. This bottle is unique, does not even begin to cover it. When I first heard about it, I had to have it and I had to talk about it. Today's drink isn't inspired by a story, but rather it's inspired by a man who basically refused to separate his life from his stories. This is really the only time that drinking alcohol counts as literary analysis. If any of my English teachers from middle school and high school are listening, which I know some are, I imagine that you're either really proud or really concerned. One of the two. Without further ado, let me introduce to you the bourbon drinker's choice of rum. Ernest Hemingway approved Papa's Pillar rum. Just a bit of a clarification before anybody comes at me in the comments. Ernest Hemingway did not actually approve this rum. He did not even try this rum. However, the company that makes Papa's Pillar has the approval and encouragement of the Hemingway family because this rum was an extension of Hemingway himself. Let's start with the name. Papa was his nickname, and Pillar was the name of his fishing boat. The rum itself is inspired by all his extensive travels. Hemingway was born in the US, but he lived in Europe, in Spain, he went to safari in Africa, he lived in Cuba, he was all over the place. And the reason why this rum is inspired by him, or by his extensive travels, is because it's a blended rum. It gets different rums from different places and creates this very unique product that reflects the very unique life of Ernest Hemingway. This isn't just a rum. It's a tribute to a lifestyle that would probably void your life insurance. Let me give you a quick summary of some of the craziness that happened in Ernest Hemingway's life. In the 1920s, he lived in Paris and was part of this lost generation where he connected with authors like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Gertrude Stein. When he was 18 years old, he was an American Red Cross ambulance driver, and while on the job, an Australian mortar shell exploded, lodging 237 pieces of shrapnel metal in his leg, with which he still carried a fellow soldier to safety. In 1935, while he was in a fishing trip, he accidentally shot both of his calves with a Colt 22 while he was trying to shoot a shark. To make things even crazier, in 1944, he entered a Ritz hotel with a machine gun, ready to liberate it from the Nazis, just to be told by a hotel manager that the Nazis left a few days ago. Also during World War II, he convinced the US Navy to let him take his wooden fishing boat around Cuba to try to hunt Nazi U-boats, only with a machine gun and a few hand grenades. Fast forwarding about a decade, he survived 2 plane crashes, not just one, 2, within the span of 48 hours. News outlets thought he was dead. He got to read his own obituary. Ernest Hemingway just really was the main character. He did do horrible things throughout his life. Putting it mildly, he was a misogynist, and that's just putting it very, very mildly. But no one can deny that the man had a wild life. So the question becomes, why are we giving a man like this the time of day? For starters, Ernest Hemingway is an incredible author. His stories and his writing style appeal to the senses. He wanted readers to experience what the story was telling. He wanted them to see, to hear, to smell everything that was on the page. And second of all, Papa's Pillar as a company, along with the Hemingway family, have donated millions of dollars to good causes. Causes like advancing literature, water conservation, reef restoration, and disaster relief. I know that I just spat out a lot of information at y'all, but I couldn't go throughout the episode without mentioning Hemingway's life, because he, like I said, lived the main character life. It was absolutely crazy, everything that he went through. So, with that being said, let's finally talk about this rum. For starters, the bottle's in the shape of a World War II canteen, and even the top, which is a screw top, is tied to the bottle with a little chain. I don't know if you can hear it. So every time that you take a drink, well, you don't drink out of the bottle, or I guess you do, I'm not here to judge. But every time that you open the bottle, it feels like you're opening a canteen from World War II. I think I mentioned earlier that this is a bourbon drinker's choice of rum, And the reason why I said that is because this rum is finished in bourbon, port, and sherry casks. So it's going to get that bourbon-esque flavor. Let's go ahead and open the bottle, actually. Okay, so we opened the screw tab. The chain on the top is actually really cool, but it's kind of annoying and in the way. You can take it off, but I mean that kind of takes the fun out of it. Oh man. Just right off the bat, the color is very reminiscent of bourbon. It's almost like a chestnut sort of brown, but very clear, very pretty. The nose is phenomenal, let me tell you. There's a few different notes that I'm picking out, and they all complement each other really well. So, right off the bat, I'm getting maple, followed by almost like a nutty sort of scent, almost like a pecan. So think like, honestly, a maple pecan pie. But let's try again, see if we can pick out anything else. So there's that sweetness that most bourbons have, that almost like vanilla, which again makes sense. This rum was aged in ex-bourbon barrels. There's almost like a fruity note in there, and I can't quite pick it out. Like, part of me wants to say like plums or raisins, but I can't pick it out. I'm wanting to say almost like a raisin, almost like a plum, but it escapes me. I can't 100% say what fruit it smells like, but there's a bit of that fruity smell. Going back in there, there's actually almost like a decadent, like a chocolate. Oh man, so like this just smells like a dessert. But that begs the question, does it taste like it smells? Let's try this through our very scientific experimental process. So that's actually really interesting. You get all the flavors that you were able to smell, but in a much more diluted sort of way. So you can still taste the maple, you can still taste the chocolate, the fruity note. They're all there. It's just not as strong as when you smell them. Which, interestingly enough, I think is the perfect segue into today's story, The Old Man and the Sea, by Ernest Hemingway. In case you haven't read it, or it's been forever since you've read it, The Old Man and the Sea follows Santiago, an aging Cuban fisherman who hasn't caught a fish in 84 days. Determined to prove his strength and skill, he sails far into the Gulf Stream and hooks a massive marlin, battling it alone for days. After finally killing the fish, he lashes it onto his boat, but sharks devour it on the way home, leaving only a skeleton. Though he returns with nothing material, Santiago retains his dignity, pride, and quiet sense of victory. Honestly, the more that I sit with this rum, the more that it feels like Hemingway in a glass. On the nose, it promises something rich, like the maple, the toasted pecans, the warmth. It feels like something that's going to be indulgent, like it's going to reward you. But then you taste it, and it pulls back. It's simpler, more restrained. There's still that sweetness, there's that fruit, but it's harder to define, it's harder to hold on to. And that's exactly what Hemingway does as an author. He gives you the idea of something grand, victory, meaning, beauty, and then he strips it down to what's real, what's earned, what's left after life. And we can even dive deeper into some specific notes and give them a bit of meaning. For example, that fruit note that I had mentioned earlier, the one that I can't put my finger on, it feels like that marlin. That marlin that Santiago hooked and he's going to bring home, and it's going to be his trophy after 84 days of nothing. You know it matters. You know it's going to be something special, but you don't get to keep it in a clean way, in a satisfying way. And that's kind of this fruit note. You know it's there, but you can't quite grasp it the way that you would like to. And that's why I think this is a perfect pairing. And really, we could have used most, if not all, of Hemingway's books, but I think The Old Man and the Sea was just kind of perfect. The reality is that the nose and palate discrepancy is Hemingway in a glass. What we imagine is not reality. We start marginally with the promise of greatness and adventure, and then reality hits, and it doesn't take away from the beauty, because it's still there, but it's not exactly what you imagine. It's triumph existing, but hollow compared to the promise of what you expected. So to rein it back in, this story and this drink They both have the vibe of someone that says, it is what it is, while they're bleeding profusely. Honestly, if we tie Ernest Hemingway's crazy life to the whole vibe, just because he is the main character and he lives this crazy life, he is not concerned with anybody else. So the vibes that the story gives with the rum, along with Hemingway's life, if they were all personified into a person and he was broken up with by text, he would write K and mean it. Something else that I want to note is that Hemingway as an author liked to focus on stimulating his audience through the senses, so sight, smell, taste, all of these things, so that the reader could almost be there as he's telling the story, as opposed to intellectual type of writing. And so I think it makes perfect sense as to why we're pairing this liquor, or this rum, to any of Hemingway's stories. In this case specifically, The Old Man in the Sea, because as you're reading it, you can almost smell the sea mist. You can almost feel the struggle with the marlin. You are there in the boat with Santiago. So this rum, you can smell all these notes, you can taste them. It's a very involved rum. It's very layered, so you are using all of your senses. I just think that this is a beautiful pairing. Something else that I want to note is that as I've been recording, I've been taking little sips here and there. Totally not drunk. And I was able to catch a different note. And it's not that fruity note I was talking about. It's a little bit different, and it's hidden within that pecan and that maple sort of note. And I was not expecting it, but I finally caught it like midway through the episode. And the closest thing I can think of is banana. So that leads me to wanting to continue the tradition of making a drink with this whiskey, or, well, in this case, a rum. And I, unfortunately, don't have all the ingredients, so I can't make this drink. But I am going to walk you through how to make this drink for you alcoholics at home. This drink is called the Dirty Monkey. All the ingredients are 1.5 ounces of dark rum, 1/2 ounce of Kahlua, 1/2 ounce of banana liqueur, 2 ounces of cream of coconut, 2 ounces of pineapple juice, 1/2 a ripe banana, 1 cup of ice, and a little bit of that chocolate sauce or chocolate syrup for garnish. And so the way that this is going to work is you're going to blend all of the ingredients together except for the chocolate sauce. Unless you want to blend in the chocolate sauce, I can't control you, I am just an audio recording. So you're going to blend all of the ingredients, but before you pour them into the glass, you are going to drizzle the chocolate sauce onto the inside part of the glass. So it's going to look like streaks. Then you're going to pour it in your Dirty Monkey, and you're going to sip it, and you're going to love it because I said so. My only word of caution, if you go to a Latin American country, specifically Mexico, but I'm sure that this will be the case in many others, and you go to a bar or you're at a resort or whatever, and you ask for a Dirty Monkey in Spanish, it has a second meaning. And so they're going to give you the drink, and it's going to be delicious, but they're going to laugh. They're not laughing at you, they're laughing at the second meaning. If you are curious about the second meaning, I don't think I'm allowed to say on the air what it is, but feel free to send me a DM and I will respond to you and I will tell you what the second meaning is, just so you're aware. And if you ever order it in Mexico or in another Latin American country and they laugh, you know why. But that is all that I have for you today. Hemingway didn't just write stories, he lived them. And Papa's Pillar feels like what's left behind when the stories end. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that listens, to leaves comments, that leaves likes, that leaves ratings on Spotify. It means the world to me. This has been Lit Whiskey Wednesday, where the lit stands for literature. I am your host, Adrian Martinez, and I will see you next episode.